When you hear the name Nintendo, what do you think of? Are you like me, a parent who might end up buying the new Nintendo Switch this holiday season? Or are you a gamer who is looking to go buy that Nintendo Switch 2 for yourself? Let me know what you think of when you hear the word Nintendo. Your age might start to show. I found this segment on CNBC about Nintendo and its latest edition, the Switch 2, very intriguing. Let's check it out together.
Nintendo just released a Switch 2, the successor to its wildly popular video game console. The original Switch outsold every other previous Nintendo console in its first year of sales, including the extremely popular Wii. And it was the second most successful console in the company's history, only 2 million units shy of its portable Nintendo DS system. The Switch also beat out the competition, outselling Microsoft and Sony's consoles in first-year sales, and overall was only surpassed by the PlayStation 2, the best-selling console of all time.
PS2.
What made it super successful is that the Switch replaced both the historic Nintendo console and the historic Nintendo handheld. So they've merged those two audiences, and the handheld audience got a massive trade up, and the console audience got a zero trade down.
However, before the Nintendo Switch, Nintendo made missteps. Wii U was a disappointment, but the Switch brought the company back into the limelight and fueled a resurgence not just for the company's financial success, but its brand overall.
The best IP on the planet. I think they have the potential to be bigger than Disney by a lot.
It's really unrivaled. It is truly one of the most beloved and well-known brands in all of media, not just interactive entertainment or video games.
Nintendo is one of the most valuable companies in the Japanese market. It has published major gaming franchises: Mario, Donkey Kong, The Legend of Zelda, Animal Crossing, and of course, Pokemon. Recently, it has leveraged its IP beyond video games, opening theme parks and releasing movies in an attempt to reach more consumers.
Our mission is to create smiles. The strategy that we utilize to go about doing that is to increase the number of touch points that consumers can have with our characters and worlds. So movies, theme parks, other out-of-video game experiences continue to create those touch points and thereby the affinity, if you will, for our characters and games.
Nintendo's latest console represents a culture shift for the company. Rather than introduce groundbreaking new features, it's playing it safe with a more iterative approach, hoping to capitalize off the success of the first-generation Switch.
I think this is long overdue. I mean, the public has shown that they like PlayStation 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so I think that the public really is going to like Nintendo Switch. I do not think that being an iteration on the old model is bad. I think the hype is underplayed. I think the thing is going to sell out everywhere.
So I gotta ask to see who's in the comments on this one. What Nintendo console did you own? You know, I remember owning the Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64, and then I was on like the handheld game hard. I had a SP, Game Boy Advance. I don't think I ever had. Oh yeah, I did get a 2DS. Yeah, I think that was the only thing Nintendo I bought. I didn't have a Wii. I didn't have a Wii U. I don't have a Switch now. And now, you know, I'm 35. I don't have time to play video games. You know, I'm doing other things. So I stopped at like the PlayStation. What's that? 4? I got a PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4. So I haven't bought a console since. But now, you know, my kids are getting up in the age that they know how to play video games. So I think a Switch is coming. I don't know if I want the Switch or the Switch 2. Let me know your advice. Any gamers that are watching this, let me know. Would you buy your kids around the age of, 5 a Switch or a Switch 2? I know some people are rushing to get the Switch too. But anyway, let me know in the comments and let me know what Nintendo devices that you had. I'm again a PlayStation guy now, but I do think Nintendo has that nostalgia for anyone, especially kids. That's what Nintendo draws you in. The kids. They got Mario, and don't even talk about Pokemon. Don't even talk about Pokemon. Talking about as a kid. Again, I'm 35 now, so back when Pokemon was out, it was when I was like in perfect age to be playing Pokemon, the Game Boy. But anyway, let me know what Nintendo devices that you have, and let me know what you think I should do. I'm not into gaming now, but should I go ahead and get that Switch 2 for my boys? Let me know your thoughts.
Nintendo was created by Fusajiro Yamauchi in 1889 under the name Nintendo Koppai, and it started out making playing cards. The company evolved over the years, introducing toys in the 1960s, arcade games in the 1970s, and released its first video game console, the Color TV game, in 1977.
Through our history, we've had various iterations of gameplay, whether that's toys, whether that's bowling alleys, a whole host of things.
In the late 1970s, Nintendo as we know it today was born. It began with Donkey Kong becoming a smash arcade hit before it ultimately released the Nintendo Entertainment System in the United States in 1985 with wildly popular games such as Super Mario Bros. And The Legend of Zelda.
Their own first-party games have been incredibly successful. That's always been a huge part of their positioning and brand equity, is that very, very good quality games that families can trust, parents can trust.
It continued its hot streak, revolutionizing portable gaming with the Game Boy in 1989, introducing 3D graphics with the Nintendo 64 in 1996. But by the mid-2000s, with the Xbox entering the fray and Sony on its second version of the PlayStation, Nintendo introduced brand new technologies like the Nintendo DS's touchscreen and the Wii's motion controls. The Wii went on to become the most successful console of its generation.
Wii really was sort of catching lightning in a bottle, right? You had seniors and folks who had never played video games flocking to the Wii because it was very innovative in terms of the motion controls.
While the Wii was a success for the company, it struggled to maintain that momentum with its next console, the Wii U, its worst-selling flagship console at a mere 13 million units.
It was a disaster. You went from the Wii that sold, I think, easily over 100 million units to the Wii U that they ended the program at like 13. So it was just this incredible drop-off.
It was really hard to play and disorienting. Gamers hated it, and you couldn't get any third-party support. Nobody wanted to make a game for it because it was such a flop.
But the company still had faith in the concept, betting that gamers might be ready to step out of the living room and take that gamepad on the go. And the Switch was born. Released in 2017, it was a turning point for the company.
It's not overstating it to say that the Switch completely reversed the fortunes of Nintendo.
The Switch became a global sensation and even 8 years later has managed to retain its popularity.
We've installed over 150 million units of Nintendo Switch over its lifetime worldwide. Last year, 129 million of those devices were still active.
Now the company hopes its Switch 2 will capitalize off this success.
If you go back to the launch of the original Switch, it comes on the heels of a really tough time, and a lot of third-party publishers will wait and see what happens with Switch before we come in and developing games for the platform. That's completely different now. Switch is one of the biggest platforms. This device is much more capable, and so the lineup of third-party support coming into the Switch 2 launch really is differentiated versus the original Switch. So there's just lots and lots of reasons for folks to upgrade.
Building your online business? Go to Wix.com and set up your store on a single.
What makes the Switch 2 a worthwhile upgrade so you don't kind of fall into that Wii U moment again?
For us, it's about creating that next generation of gaming platforms. And with Switch 2, we've taken the things that you know and love about Nintendo Switch, but then added very powerful gameplay features and social features.
The Switch 2 features a number of upgrades over the first generation, a bigger screen, better performance, but the new console surprised fans with its steep price of $450.
Price is a big issue here. Everyone's talking about it. It's $150 more than the original Switch was. Can you talk a little bit about why we're seeing such a big price increase versus the previous generation?
I think it boils down to a couple of things. First of all, the hardware unit itself, which has a lot of improved features with the Joy-Con 2, also to the LCD screen that is much larger and much deeper and richer. And then there's the CPU and GPU processing power that allows for much deeper game development.
Despite this, the Switch 2 sold out within minutes of pre-orders opening up.
They're probably not going to be in a position to meet initial demand. I do think that they'll be able to have success even at this higher price point. I think there's enough demand that they should be fine.
Let me know, did you get a Nintendo Switch 2? I got a homeboy at work, grown man, of course, we talking about he in his 30s. He said, oh yeah, me and my kids got that Switch 2. Yep, it sold out, but guess what? We got it. Some people are really serious about getting a new gaming console. See, but what gets me, again, we don't have a Switch at all. But you trying to say the Switch is like, I just saw a price of $299, and so $300. But the Switch 2 is another $150 on top of that. So $300. You talking about $450? What? I ain't even gonna be playing it. I'm gonna be playing it. I am. I'm lying. I'm gonna be playing it with the boys, but is the Switch 2 worth it to someone that hasn't had a Switch? An extra $150 on top of that, and you just said the demand is so high that it's hard to find. I have heard that currently, right now, it's hard to get one. I'm pretty sure by Christmas time, it'd be a different story. But again, let me know if you think the Switch 2 is worth the steep price.
Games are a big draw for consoles. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe sold 67 million copies on the original Switch, making it the most successful game on the device. With the release of the new console, Nintendo is setting a new premium for some game prices, with Mario Kart's latest entry costing $80.
$80. That's a lot for a game. I know it's typically not what Nintendo charges. Can you talk a little bit about how the gaming pricing strategy is $80 kind of the benchmark for a AAA game from Nintendo?
We're not really looking to establish a benchmark for pricing. We look at every game and every experience and determine what we believe is the right price point based on that experience.
What about for third-party titles? Is that kind of up to the developer?
That's exactly right. It's really their choice based, again, on the type of gameplay experience that they're bringing.
Nintendo has been able to leverage the popularity of the Switch into services that expand beyond just playing games online with your friends.
Nintendo Switch Online really is all about giving consumers connection to other parts of our IP and of our gaming catalog. We've also announced that with the launch of Nintendo Switch 2, we're going to be taking some of the most popular games that were on Nintendo Switch, and those will be given for free through the Nintendo Switch Online Plus Expansion Pass subscription.
If you look at Sony's, the PlayStation business, PlayStation Plus, I think, penetrates something like more than 40% of the active PlayStation community. So Nintendo's not there. So just from a penetration perspective, Nintendo, I think, has an opportunity to raise that level.
They're requiring Switch Online in order to play Mario Kart World. If that thing has a 50% attach rate, they're going to have 50% of Switch owners paying them $60 a year in perpetuity. That's pretty smart.
Nintendo has been expanding beyond its gaming roots, resembling Disney more than competitors such as Microsoft and Sony.
Over time, I think that they have aspirations to be far more like Disney. So, more movie properties based on their characters, more theme parks, more lunchboxes. It's really massive for Disney. And given that Nintendo's characters are as well known, I think that there's massive potential for them to do a lot more outside of games.
In 2015, Nintendo made one of its biggest moves beyond gaming to date, partnering with Universal for theme park attractions, opening Super Nintendo World at Universal Studios Japan in 2021, followed by attractions at Universal Studios Hollywood in 2023 and Epic Universe in Orlando this year.
It's more of an ancillary opportunity for them, but clearly a good one.
One of Nintendo's highest profile moves has been movies. Nintendo acquired Dynamo Pictures in July of 2022, renamed it as Nintendo Pictures, and in 2023 it released the Super Mario Bros. Movie, which became the highest-grossing video game adaptation ever, bringing in $1.3 billion at the global box office and was the second highest-grossing film of the year.
Commercially very successful, and again speaks to the power of their brands and IP, which are really unmatched, certainly in the video game space.
A sequel is planned for release April 3rd of 2026, and the company has announced a Legend of Zelda movie set for March 26, 2027.
We announced a Legend of Zelda live-action movie. We're also seeing new apps come out, like the music app. Some new gadgets come out, like Alarmo. Should we be thinking of Nintendo as more of a character and IP company now? Versus, are you guys trying to go after Disney here?
I think you should think of us as an entertainment company, because going all the way back to our origins in 1889, we were all about entertainment. Video games is at the core of our entertainment experiences, but we've also learned that these characters and these worlds have the ability to step beyond just a video game environment.
So we should expect to see more movies. We should expect to see more physical attractions.
I think the trends you've seen will continue. There's a lot of this that'll be coming over the years to come.
Retail is another area the company has been steadily growing. It's opened 3 flagship stores in its home country of Japan since the release of the Nintendo Switch, rebranded and expanded its New York City flagship store, and opened a new store in San Francisco in May.
I would hire somebody from Disney to help them to develop a branding strategy and get it out there. There should be Bowser potato chips. There should be Mario Cheetos, and they don't do that.
But can Nintendo follow up the success of the Switch? It's hard to make magic twice. The Switch 2 is more of an iterative console than past Nintendo consoles. Is it worth the upgrade? Well, Nintendo has said they expect to sell 15 million consoles this year, matching the original Switch's first-year sales after launch.
To me, that seems a conservative estimate. Nintendo have a really fantastic experience with truly modern AAA games. They've really invested in things like Nintendo Switch Online, which is new for them, and I think a real differentiator heading into this cycle versus previous. I happen to think that Switch 2 should outperform Switch 1.
The fanboy demand will be at least 3 or 4 million in the US. They're going to make roughly 1.5 million a month, which is 18 million a year. And so the question is just how many are they shipping to the US? The US, because of the dollar-yen exchange rate, is the most profitable place for them to sell. They literally make 50 yen, 50% more profit. And that's a big deal.
The Switch 2 launch comes at a time of trade uncertainty. President Trump's tariffs have rattled markets and upended supply chains around the world. Many electronics makers have raised their prices. So far, no price change on console or games for the Switch 2, but after unveiling the console, Nintendo did raise prices for accessories by a small amount.
I don't think it's going to pose a problem for launch. I get the impression that several million devices were basically produced in advance and maybe shipped to the US to avoid tariffs. So there's ways around it, but let me be clear, it's never good for kind of global trade and global supply chains.
I actually think tariffs are gone by the end of Trump's term. I personally think they're gone sooner. I think Congress switches. Nobody's going to build a plant if tariffs are going to go away completely in November 26. They're not going to shift their production. Right now they're producing in Vietnam.
And if the demand is there, can Nintendo keep up with it? There were stock issues with the PlayStation 5 during the pandemic, and the tariff situation could make things more challenging.
It's an incredibly fluid and challenging situation for not only ourselves, but for a lot of companies. So the price that you see right now is the price that you can be expecting in the future. Of course, tariffs could change that.
And is there enough of a value proposition for people? Many consumers may wait for costs to come down or for their first generation Switch to break. If the midnight lines and sold out pre-orders are any indication, Nintendo could have another hit on its hands.
They finally really hit on a formula that they can replicate. I think the iteration is the right way to go. I think they're going to sell out at least through Christmas. I don't think you'll be able to find one on a store shelf until January.
They have a vertically integrated strategy, right? That the games sell the hardware and the innovations in the hardware help sell the games. It feels like they've been able to sort of really hit the sweet spot of doing both. I think it's a bright future for Nintendo.
Okay, so let me know your thoughts. It just said that they think that the Nintendo Switch 2 will be sold out all the way through Christmas. You probably won't be able to get one of them things until January next year in the US. Sheesh. So again, let me know your thoughts. Do you think, the Nintendo Switch 2 is all the hype? What do you think about Nintendo's trajectory? Will the Nintendo Switch 2 outsell the one? Let me know. And like always, I appreciate you checking me out. Peace.